Hi, this is Dr. Fox. Let's talk about the laryngeal neurovasculature. In this video, we'll discuss the arteries, nerves, and branches of nerves which serve the larynx and their specific targets. So let's start with the arteries. There are two major arteries which serve the larynx, the superior laryngeal artery and the inferior laryngeal artery. And let's talk about the pathway that blood will flow to each of these individual arteries. So let's start with the superior laryngeal artery. The superior laryngeal artery is a branch of the superior thyroid artery, which is a branch of the external carotid artery. The superior laryngeal artery branches from the superior thyroid artery and heads through a hiatus in the thyrohyoid membrane. That's the membrane between the hyoid bone and the thyroid cartilage. It accompanies the internal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve on its way. The other artery which serves the larynx, the inferior laryngeal artery, is a branch of the inferior thyroid artery, which you may recall is a branch of the thyrocervical trunk, which is one of three branches from the first part of the subclavian artery. That inferior laryngeal artery accompanies the recurrent laryngeal nerve as they both ascend the neck within the tracheoesophageal groove on their way up to serve the larynx. When we think about the nerves that serve different parts of the body, and you consider the larynx, it's all cranial nerve 10, or the vagus. The vagus nerve has two major branches that serve the larynx, the superior laryngeal nerve and the recurrent laryngeal nerve. The superior laryngeal nerve branches from the vagus. It descends within the carotid sheath, and then it ramifies or branches into two branches. There is an external branch and an internal branch. That external branch continues on down lateral to the larynx, and it's going to serve the cricothyroid muscle. The cricothyroid muscle is unique among all of the intrinsic muscles of the larynx in that it is the only one not innervated by the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So that external branch of the superior laryngeal nerve causes the cricothyroid muscle to contract, which tips the thyroid cartilage anteriorly, putting tension on the vocal folds, which increases pitch. The other branch of the superior laryngeal nerve is the internal branch. Recall this accompanies the superior laryngeal artery through that thyrohyoid hiatus. This internal branch carries sensory fibers or afferent fibers from the mucosa proximal to the vocal folds, and it also conducts parasympathetic or secretomotor fibers to the glands of the mucosa which are proximal to the vocal folds. My mnemonic for remembering this is that the superior laryngeal nerve branches are much like me, very muscular on the outside and very sensitive on the inside. So that leaves us with the recurrent laryngeal nerves. The recurrent laryngeal nerves get their name from the fact that they descend the neck beyond the larynx, and they're going to wrap about major arterial features. On the right side, you may recall the right recurrent laryngeal nerve wraps about the subclavian artery, whereas on the left side, the left recurrent laryngeal nerve wraps about the arch of the aorta, right at the concavity. The recurrent laryngeal nerve is the somatic motor or efferent to all of the intrinsic laryngeal muscles with the exception of cricothyroid. And it's also going to conduct sensory fibers back from the mucosa distal to the vocal folds, as well as parasympathetic fibers, which are secretomotor to the glands of the mucosa distal to the vocal folds. So the vocal folds are an important landmark when distinguishing the mucosal targets of vagus branches in the larynx, with everything proximal or superior to the folds being under the purview of the internal branch of superior laryngeal nerve, and everything inferior or distal to those folds being targets of the recurrent laryngeal nerves. So that brings us to our assessment question. During the ligation of the inferior thyroid artery during a thyroidectomy, a surgeon should be mindful of which nerve? A, the external branch of the superior laryngeal nerve, B, the internal branch of the superior laryngeal nerve, or C, the recurrent laryngeal nerve? Well, as you may recall, the recurrent laryngeal nerve is going to accompany the inferior laryngeal artery on its way up the tracheoesophageal groove, and that will be nearest to, because it is a branch of the inferior thyroid artery. So C, recurrent laryngeal nerve, is going to be the most correct answer. Thank you for your time. I appreciate your patience.